Yes, okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Jorgen Wilberg. I'm the founder of Be My Eyes. And Be My Eyes is an app. It's an app for smartphones and it's an app for blind people. It's a rather simple app. It makes a live video connection between a blind person and a sighted volunteer. And this means that a blind person can request visual assistance via Be My Eyes. um, You might ask, how can a blind person at all use a smartphone? There's no buttons or anything, and I'm not paid by Apple to say this, but Apple has made a system called VoiceOver that's built into any iPhone. You can just turn it on. And this means that your phone will, when you put the finger on the screen, the phone will say what you're touching. It will say Facebook and Twitter and Maps and so on. And then you double tap, and then you open that app, and the VoiceOver will start telling you from the top and down what's on the screen. And this means that a blind person can navigate their phone in another way, but just as fast as you and I, using this system VoiceOver. It can be a little tricky to turn it off, so be careful when you turn it on. You can always ask Siri to turn it off, so that's a little trick. And then you can say, why not just use Skype or FaceTime to make this live call and get the visual assistant? And that is because when you're using Skype or FaceTime, you have to call a specific person. You cannot just call a random on Skype or FaceTime or Hangout for that matter. And this is where I came up with this idea that we should make a group of volunteers that you can call as a blind person. And when I came up with this idea back in 2012, I'm not technical at all. I have no clue how to do this. So I went to a startup weekend and I got a team around it. And Christian is my CEO. He's here. Will be joining the panel later. Was one of the first people to join in, and that was a good thing because I really needed a team to get this idea rolling. And in the beginning, we had a lot of ideas what the app should be able to do. But then we looked at starting to raise the money and so on, and we decided maybe we should make a super simple app that basically can do exactly what we wanted to do. And in that process, it kind of became a sport to make it as simple as possible. And we got it down to one button, where the only thing that the blind person can do without going into settings, of course, is request help. And this was exactly what we wanted it to do. We even got a prize for this super simple design, and it was kind of interesting in this process. Also, we did a lot of testing with blind people, and I'm visually impaired myself, but I'm not completely blind. And when you're sitting there with your developers and you think what you have done is crystal clear and easy to understand, and then you pull in a blind person and ask them to sign in, and this is really scary, but it is super important that you involve the persons that you are designing for in this process. And I'm super happy we did that, and I'm sure the app got a lot better by doing this. And so this is super important that you involve the persons that you are actually designing for and have them active in the process. We have a kind of made a mess of it now because now we have two buttons. I will come back to that later on. On the volunteer side, it's also a rather simple app. You cannot do much. We have added a few things that you can do besides waiting for someone to call. It is that now you can go in and listen to some of the stories that we post on a weekly basis from some of the blind people and from some of the volunteers who tell about their experience and why they signed up for this and so on. So kind of keep a little more community-wise. And if you have a blind person, Mike in Hong Kong, at 11 o'clock at night, and he needs to see something. Then he take out his phone and he launch Be My Eyes, or he can also just press Siri and say, make a Be My Eyes call, and then the phone will find a volunteer. And when Mike pressed the button, we send out a notification to, I think, between 5 and 15 people, because we don't know what the volunteers are doing. Some are working, some is driving, and one is kissing his wife, and so on, and they don't want to be disturbed. But hopefully one of those 5 or 10 people have the time, and they will say, yes, I would like to volunteer. And in this case, it's Karen in London, and then when she has decided to take the call, we make the live video connection, and then Mike can show her something, most likely in her kitchen, in his kitchen, and Karen will say, "Oh, please move the phone a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left," and so on, and in that way they can have this communication about what might have of issues, and she can answer her the questions. As it is right now, this morning, we have 1.3 million volunteers, and we have about 80,000 blind people. There is 150 app stores in the world, so this is why the number is not bigger than that. But actually we are in basically any country, maybe only a few people, but we are pretty much in any country in the whole world. And what I find maybe even more interesting is that now we can provide help in 180 different languages. We ask our volunteers to add in if they know a secondary language, or some even speak 3 or 4 or 5 languages, and then they can add them, and this means that we can now help blind people in this many languages, and we have volunteers in many languages in many time zones. So also, like Mike, can get help late o'clock in the evening, because we don't call people at 11 o'clock at night. Then we just find someone in another time zone where it is daytime. We only call people between 8 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. But if you are a blind person, maybe you want help at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we just find someone in another time zone. This is how it looks when we look at the calls. So we are truly a international thing. We try to find people in the same country, because there can be some cultural things, and you know what kind of food they have in that country and so on. But sometimes, as I mentioned, it's after bedtime, and then we connect in other parts of the world. And what we do most, or not most, we had this lady in Finland who were at her son's badminton match, and she was completely blind and sitting there waiting for the game to be over. And then she was using Be My Eyes to have the match interpreted to her, and the volunteer was quite surprised, but was asking, but which one of the guys are your son? And she couldn't really say that. What kind of clothes does he have on? I don't know. But it's him yelling now. Okay, now that's the guy in the blue. And then she was telling how the match went on. It may be not the most common use. A lot of blind people are using Be My Eyes to make sure that they have a shirt that matches whatever they have on, and the socks are the same color, and the shirt is clean, and so on. And that's a super common use of Be My Eyes. Also, we had, and this is even more rare, we had a girl in England who, for some reason, felt that she needed to make a pregnancy test, and she could make the test, but she couldn't read the result. And this, I'm really proud that she was using Be My Eyes, because Be My Eyes is basically her only solution to do this without involving a person in her surroundings. And there's some information you just want to have for yourself, maybe just for an hour or 2 hours or something like that. by using Be My Eyes, she can have this completely anonymous volunteer tell her if she was pregnant or not, and then she could decide what to do with that information. And this is very much more common is that you get a piece of mail, and if you are a blind person, you have no idea what it is, or if it is something that's important. Maybe you can scan it, but if it is something that is handwritten, you cannot really scan it, and it can be difficult to find out what the scanner tells you. And then a lot of people are using Be My Eyes to find out if it is something that they need to do something about, or it is something they can throw out, or that it can wait to some of their relatives comes around. The most common use is in the kitchen. We do a whole lot of microwaving food and finding out if it is coconut or tomato, or have I set my oven to 200 degrees. We have a bunch of calls that are like 15 seconds. They call up and say, I just want to make sure I have my washing machine on the right program, and then they decide what program it is, and then thank you. This is a 15-second call, but it's super important that the blind person is comfortable pressing the button with this super expensive sweater inside the washing machine. They want to be sure that they are not doing something wrong. This is a video that will show.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to read this screen here to see what's on it. Can you tell me what's on the screen?
Yes, it says updating Windows. Your PC will restart. It's saying it's at 7% of the update. So you've got another 93% before it's going to be done updating your Windows program.
Okay, I guess we'll have to wait for that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, find something fun to do.
Exactly. Thank you.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
This is a super typical example of some people who has a computer issue, and they are using Be My Eyes to solve this. I will get back to another way to do it later on. But the lady does not need to know anything about computer. I'm not saying she don't, but she does not need to know anything, because she just needs to be the eye. The guy know exactly what he's doing. He just needs to know what's on the screen right now. And when you're updating your computer, the screen reader will stop talking, and then as a blind person, you have no clue. And even after only 7%, he is wondering what's going on. So maybe he will need to make a few more calls before he reaches 100%. In Japan, they have some super fancy toilets, and this blind guy, he want to know what's going to happen to him when he press one of the buttons, and I can kind of relate to that. The second button that we have added to the screen is called Specialized Help. And as it is right now, you can, of course, call the volunteer, but if you have a specific problem with your Microsoft product, you can call Microsoft Help Desk directly, or Support Desk. And this means that you can, as a blind person, you can get a expert from Microsoft tell you what to do with your Microsoft product. And the good thing here is that the Microsoft supporter gets the video part as well, because the first thing they will ask you is, okay, what's on the screen now, or how many green lights is flashing, or something like that. And if you are a blind person, you cannot give that information, but now you can just show the screen to the supporter, and then he can guide you through this support thing. And Microsoft is our first customer. When I say customer, it's because Microsoft is paying Be My Eyes a monthly fee, so we can help them help their blind customers. And they learn about their products in the same case. And this is really, really important. We want to have Microsoft is only the first company. We want to have a bunch of companies that make products that are used by blind people. And of course, we want them to pay Be My Eyes for this, but we also want them to kind of feel the pain of their own product, so they can make better products in the future. And this is kind of a built-in thing to this solution. And it is Be My Eyes is a free app, and the service of calling Microsoft is also free for the blind people, and this is super important for us. This is when you press the specialized help, then you will get into this list, and then you can. It's not that long right now. We hope to make it a lot longer, and also have relevant companies in different countries. So the blind people in France, they might need other companies than the blind people in Spain or Germany or US or Canada or whatever. So we hope to have a long specialized, also country divided list. And this is a big market, you can say. We are proud of our 80,000 blind people, but it's basically nothing because there's 250 million visually impaired people or low vision or blind people in this world, according to the UN. So we have just started. And a little bit about myself. I am visually impaired. I have tunnel vision, so when I have where you have 180-degree vision, I have about 4-degree vision. I've been working for the Danish Blind Association and so on, and this is where I kind of came up with the idea. We launched the app in 2015 in January. And this was a completely amazing event because we got an enormous amount of press from day one, because we were basically the first app to take advantage of this crowdsourcing for something good, and this was the talk of the town for a long time. And within the first week, we have been in all the tech side that you as a young startup dream about, so we were pretty excited about. And after that, the more mainstream media came along, and I can say that my CEO and I, we spent the January, February, March giving 2, 3, 4 interviews a day, so it was really a thing. One of the more interesting was that I was on a live Russian radio show. I don't speak Russian at all, so they had to translate back and forward. And the blind people from Russia were calling in and asking questions. So it was interesting, and maybe one of the longer half an hour I have experienced. It's great to be mentioned in New York Times, but what's really important for Be My Eyes is that we get into news side that you probably don't know, but in the southern part of Sweden, they have something called Malmö Taltidning, and that is a CD that's sent out to blind people once a week with the latest news, and they also interviewed me for a piece there, and that is, of course, that kind of media we really want. Yeah. We have been in CBS Evening News, and they even tweeted about us, and they made this wonderful story on the 4th of July with a black and a white females, same-sex married, and they were blind, and they were using Be My Eyes, so it was quite a piece. Also, we are using Twitter. As I mentioned, we are a free app, so we are also on a limited budget. So we are using Facebook and Twitter as much as we can, and we encourage our users to tweet about their experiences and so on. So we can. So this is also kind of a design thing. It's wonderful to read the tweets from our users, and sometimes I'm in real doubt, who am I helping the most? The blind or the visually or the volunteers, because the volunteers are so excited about being able to do this. So it's and it can be interesting to read the tweets, because when you are in so many different countries, you also get tweets in many different languages. One of our most 2 months ago, I met Stevie Wonder, and I got to talk to him. And the reason why I'm smiling so much on this picture is that he has just told me that he was actually using Be My Eyes. I didn't know that. So it was kind of a surprise, and I don't think he's using it that much, but he knew about it, and he said that he had been using it. So that's pretty amazing. What I dream about is that we can get Be My Eyes into the hands of people all over the world, blind people, and so that we can, instead of using the white cane, then they can use Be My Eyes. And oh, what happened here? Can you get? I think I pressed something. Nevertheless, we want to put Be My Eyes into the hands of every blind person on this world, because I have noticed that when you guys are walking down the street, you're staring into your phone and you're not paying attention to anything, then you can use our white cane. So we don't need them, then you can have them and use Be My Eyes, or use the white cane instead of us. Okay, maybe not so much. The thing is that the 90% of the blind people in this world, they live in low-income settings like India and most parts of Africa. And we hope that we can reach them because they are also getting smartphones. And now that Be My Eyes is also available on Android, we can really reach the blind people in this region of the world. And and you must say they are not able to get online. Yes, they are, and also in remote areas of Africa, when they have been building their flying balloons and self-flying planes, and that will beam internet down to remote area of Africa. So I believe that we can reach blind people all over the world. And the price of being online is only going one way. And I was told that in India is one of the countries where it is cheapest to be online. And we can see that 91% of our blind users in India, they are on Android. So this is really important. In average, all over the world, it's pretty much 50-50 iPhone and Android. So it's interesting to look at those numbers. We have had a lot of press, as mentioned, and also some interesting ones. Popular Science has this list every year where they point out 10 things that are interesting, and we were number 3 on that list. And we were mentioned before IBM Watson, and it's with all respect, Be My Eyes is quite a lot more simple than Watson, but I think it is because, as I mentioned before, that we were the first one to really take advantage of the crowdsourcing in a good manner, and this has been the driving force for our press, I think. This is, for me personally, also an interesting one because I was named global thinker, one of 100 global thinkers in 2015 by Foreign Policy. And I can assure you that none of my school teachers expected me to be on this list. On the other hand, none of my school teachers were on the list either. So, can I do one more short story? I think so. We had a lady in Washington who was about to sing in her choir, and she needed a pair of shoes, black shoes, and she was using Be My Eyes to make sure that she had the black shoes on. And when she made the call, she got a lady in Ireland who was in the middle of singing in her choir. They were just having a break. So they forgot all about the black shoes and started to talk about singing in choir and so on. And then they got back to the black shoes and so on. And the whole thing ended up with the Irish choir singing for the lady in Washington. And this was like a 20-minute call or something like that. And this is of course not that often, but it is beautiful to see that you make those connections, random connections, and I think this is also a super important part of Be My Eyes. So one of the members of the choir in Ireland, he ended up saying, this was our first international gig. So it's we like to call it micro-volunteering because I think 90% of our calls are less than 3 minutes. So it is really a super easy thing to do, and you don't have to be available at every Wednesday night between something like that. You can just, if you have the time and you get the call, you can just tap yes or no. So it's really an easy thing. Sometimes the calls can be longer, of course, but most calls are super, super short and easy. This is just to say that we have got even more awards, and the latest one was from Google, who gave us the best accessibility experience in 2017. It's 18, of course. Sorry. And it's that was a great honor, and Google has pushed about Be My Eyes on the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Apple did the same thing, so, and this is why we have gained more than 300,000 new volunteers within the last 20 days or something like that. So it's been really crazy times lately, and we hope to that will go on. And so that's about Be My Eyes, and Christian will join for the talk here later. So thank you.